Per usual, everything on this channel is for educational purposes only and is not intended as financial advice. Let's take a look at some altcoins today. Not much has changed week over week. As an altcoiner, you should still be rooting for BTC breaking up, not down. Alts are just an amplification of whatever BTC does. Eventually, as an altcoiner, you're rooting for dominance to roll over, which does not look like it's happening anytime soon. It will not be a secret. It will not be a surprise. It will be obvious. There's no reason to guess. So if you're trading alts as an altcoiner, for the most part, you should expect to be underperforming BTC if you're holding over a longer period of time. Everybody thinks they're the best altcoin stock picker in the world and that they can outperform BTC. That could be true. But in general, most alts not doing so hot against BTC. That's why people look at dominance in the first place. What people are fixated on is this possibility on the right side there of an inverted head and shoulders, a triple bottom, potentially coming out of the cloud, potentially coming above the 200-day moving average. And you'll notice we are still below both of those things. And everybody wants to jump the gun. They want to be the first one. They want to say that they called it. They want to be the hero. They want to be the wick. There's no reason to want to be the wick. It's okay. You can wait. Thus far on Total 2, you're not missing much. There's been a little bit of a bounce on some of this stuff. On a lot of it, there hasn't been. What do we have coming up? The election. We have FOMC a couple days after that. And you just have to game out what you think will happen. Is a Harris White House good or bad for alts? Is a Trump White House good or bad for alts? And then what actually happens after that, right? If the Fed comes out on the 7th and says, hey, we're going to stop QT and start QE, that's probably bullish for alts. If they say, hey, we're going to keep cutting instead of pausing or extending this easing cycle, that's probably bullish for alts. But if the Fed comes out and says, you know, we're probably not going to cut in December, can't imagine that's too bullish for alts, right? So what about all the other data, the unemployment data? I don't know. But you can try to game out something, or you can just look at the technicals and say, yeah, it's not time yet, right? That's one of the main reasons I've focused on technicals for so long. We can pretend to think we know what might happen, or we can just watch the technicals and wait. So technicals still showing neutrality. We'll say it like that. We'll be kind, but yeah, the cloud says neutrality at the moment. Stablecoins have not been printing over the past couple of weeks, so no surprise, alts kind of going nowhere. Tether faring far better than USDC. USDC looks to be slowly bleeding a little bit here. Not a lot of USDC issuance as of late. But again, this may change with a new regulatory regime. Honestly, from either side, it sounds like they're warming up to stablecoins. It sounds like they may be creating an eventual moat for USDC. There could be a period of time next year where Tether slows down considerably on the issuance front and USDC starts to accelerate. That's certainly possible. I wouldn't bet on that, but if the regulatory gods bless them and the lobbying dollars pay off, that's what they would want, obviously, is for USDC to pop up in issuance. Total 2 over BTC looks as sad as it ever has. It is at the lows. It is at multi-month lows. Again, it's not going to be a surprise. You don't have to be the wick. You'll be okay. That's the benefit of alt season. The benefit of alt season is you can afford to wait because the returns are so outrageous that, yeah, if this extends into 2025 or 2026, okay, fine. What do I care, right? The point isn't to guess. The point is to be sure or somewhat sure and then trade around that. And this has been pretty clear for a long while now. Some of the other non-alt things that you can watch, ARK. ARK looks good insofar as that it is above the weekly cloud. ARK is loaded with highly speculative growth. Let's be generous and call it growth stuff. So if you're an altcoiner, you're rooting for ARK. You're rooting for ARK to break 50. That's what you're rooting for sure. This is the watch market index. Slight tick down here if we zoom way out. If you're unfamiliar, this is basically flat since 2021 all the way back to pre-pandemic levels. You can see sort of CPI, what that would look like on this as far as inflation, and that's come all the way down. So this is another early sign to watch for, if, no pun intended, if this curls up and holds those highs or holds those lows, whatever, right? But not much of anything just yet. and then some NFT stuff. What you're really looking for here, even if you don't trade this, which I certainly don't, but what you're looking for here is anything that suggests higher highs, anything that suggests an end to a multi-month consolidation. Is there a strong case on punks here that it's the absolute low? I don't think so. And you can, of course, zoom in on this, but maybe there's some sort of inverted head and shoulder situation going on there. I think Bored Apes looked a little more bottomy to me, but this is not strong evidence yet. We're still waiting for those higher highs. We're waiting for volume to come back. Volume slowly ticking up here on this speculative stuff. Pudgy Penguin's faring far better, but the volume's still quite low there. And maybe the ETH NFTs aren't what you need to be watching. Maybe it's some other chain. I don't know. But I would poke around and take a look and see what you can see. My guess is, for the most part, a lot of this stuff is just still doing a bunch of nothing. Before we go any further here, let me mention today's video sponsor, Kraken Pro. Kraken Pro is a complete overhaul of the Kraken trading experience with one-stop shop for advanced and professional traders. Kraken Pro enables efficient trading execution across multiple markets with a UI that allows for unique optimization tailored to your trading style. You can check out Kraken Pro at the link in the description of this video. Not investment advice. Crypto trading involves risk of loss. Cryptocurrency services are provided to U.S. and U.S. territory customers by Payward Ventures Inc., PVI, DBA, Kraken. We had a lot of excitement today on the BTC front, insofar as price had a 2% down day, people getting very bearish. I don't think anything matters until the election. So if we are post-election above 60, I think that's a win. We can pop on some moving averages. We can say these are the levels to watch for. Anything in here is great as a support bounce. That includes the cloud. That includes the middle of whatever hellish range we're in here. If we survive that post-election, I think we are in a good spot. But I expect a lot of volatility, a lot of general risk off type behaviors, which includes just doing nothing and letting price have a temper tantrum. So that might mean thin books, that might mean low volume, that might mean who knows what, right? But the key level is certainly 60. So for alts should be extra turbo volatile in both directions because nobody's quite sure what's going on anywhere, And I'll go through some of these individual names, but on the meme side, these six collectively, I would put these six up pound for pound against most anything right now. Doge looks great. SHIB looks like it's about to be great. Pepe looks okay. WIF looks okay. Bonk looks okay. Floki looks okay. But the point with all of these is they've spent months consolidating, going sideways, months chopping around. They've printed collectively all different types of triple bottom type fractals. So these charts as a group look better than most. If we look at the OG6 that I talked about, I don't know, a year ago at this point, probably, some of these right back at lows, not holding their low, not doing so well, not looking so hot. That isn't to say that they can't later on do well. They just don't look great. This is a giant advertisement for it's better off to wait. Just wait for prices to get back either above the weekly cloud or horizontal levels. It's way too early on any of this stuff. This is like below number 50 on the market cap or something. We'll call them mid caps. I don't know. But these have yet to do well. And we, of course, have ETH BTC doing what it does best, making new multi-month lows. It is getting to the point where it better stop dropping here pretty soon, or it's going to be in real deal trouble. Anything below that yearly pivot there, which I think is like 0.035 or something, that could be a problem. We don't have any of this. This took 2 years to bottom previously. We saw the meme coins, very similar fractals here compared to how ETH BTC bottomed last time. No one thinks this can go lower. No one who's holding ETH wants this to go lower, but it hasn't yet looked like it's ready to bottom. It's at a spot logically where you'd expect it to try to hold, but it just has no ability to do so by the looks of it. So I don't think there's a great risk reward set up here in either direction, just because it still continues to look bearish despite being oversold. And if it loses this support, what's the next level down? We can measure fibs, we can do all sorts of stuff. There was this old harmonic idea that measures to 0.36. I guess that's the level, 0.36 to 0.35. I don't know. it doesn't look like anything I want to touch. And I think that's collectively what the market is saying. Nobody wants to touch this until it shows some strength above the 50-week moving average again. Contrast that to Sol ETH, which is making new all-time highs. And it had quite the journey of being all sorts of stuff, ascending triangle, head and shoulders, had a little fake out breakdown, eventually broke out and didn't go anywhere, and then reconsolidated as an ascending triangle again. And now it's finally breaking out into a real deal all-time high territory. Where could this go this cycle? I think everybody's looking at 0.1 for sure. But if ETH continues to do not so well, then this whole thing you could obviously measure as a cup and handle, and whatever that is as a measurement is certainly a possibility. But Sol even today holding very strong despite BTC selling off. ETH looking not so great, but the Sol inverted head and shoulders is still on the table. It's just hard to know which alts will hold randomly and which won't, despite having strength throughout the day. This could easily have went in the other direction, in that it holds the neckline for a while, it looks fine, and then it pukes to like 155 or something. This was the old plan we made on stream for the potential trade of this, and it hasn't been pretty, but it has played out. It has not stopped you out yet. And the key here, as always, is it never made a new lower low. There was never a new lower low this entire time. So there's nothing wrong with taking these trades early, but the moral of the story here, the lesson is it's probably best to add on the way up and not just assume that you are going to be the bottom wick and everything's going to work out. But so far so good on Sol. For ETH, on the other hand, the story is less bullish in the near term. Now, I don't think this is going to break down if everything else breaks up. So it's probably worth it to watch this as, at this point, some sort of ascending triangle potentially into 2025 when ETH does better. It's just hard to say. It's not above the cloud. It's certainly not above the 200-day moving average. We can pop that on. So just as a litmus test, it's nowhere near any bullishness that you'd want it to be. You can buy anything anywhere. That's not the point. The point is, what does the trend say? The trend says we're above the cloud, above the 200. We have a much better chance of making higher highs versus doing nothing. So we're just not there yet. And anything above, I don't know, 2,700 in November would be good. So you can watch the daily cloud, you can watch the 200-day, you can watch the horizontal on whatever this might be eventually, right? But none of this has said, yeah, this is a great trade, other than potentially a cloud edge-to-edge trade, which you may or may not be stopped out on today because we're breaking out of the cloud. It's just not the place to be based on how it's behaved. I'll stick to the daily, so if it doesn't have anything on the daily, I will move on. But PopCat, sure. I mean, the problem with trading this stuff that's newly listed, it's not for me. I need like months and years of trading history. So I really have no opinion on anything that's freshly listed because anything can happen in either direction. TIA does have a bunch of unlocks coming into 2025, so I'd pay attention to that. However, if let's say the unlocks don't matter, which I don't think will be the case, but let's just pretend that they don't exist and pretend TIA is a perfect asset in a vacuum. It still has this. Where do we see random price action that's bullish? We see that on charts that have done nothing for months. TIA is one such candidate. As long as it can hold these levels, even if it makes an equal low, that's totally fine. We'll take that. You know, we're not, at least for me, I'm not in this trade. What do I care? But going into mid-November, I will bet you that there's a very good chance that there's a trade here. That doesn't mean there's a trade here now. Look at Square. Same thing. Square has a very similar setup that's taken months and months and months and months, getting closer to playing out. So yeah, you can DCA this. You can start to get in the trade. I wouldn't expect a miracle until a month from now when it has that opportunity. Stop loss is always new lower lows. But if we're trying to figure out what this could be, it has a good shot at breaking higher later on this quarter. SUI on the daily still has this TK C-clamp, which just means it went up really quickly and then went flat momentum-wise. So that would be the level, regardless of what happens for anything Bitcoin-wise. That's the level where I would wait. And if you like this, that's where I would put bids, but I wouldn't chase this. I don't think there's anything here that says this is the place to be after it moved 100% in a month. Ripple unimportant until it is above the 66 cent line. If you squint, this may morph into some sort of triple bottom, but just nothing to do until it's above the neckline. WIF we talked about already. I still think SHIB is one of the better looking charts. I'll just say that again. I won't bring it up, but it still looks good. This is Tau, and it looks like last week I was drawing some sort of diamond situation, TKC clamp there as well on the daily. If we bump it down just a little bit to the 12-hour, you can see that there. It's just telling you from a cloud perspective that, yes, momentum is rolling over. If you're trading the cloud on the 12-hour, it's going to tell you to get out pretty soon if you haven't already. And the time to revisit this would be a bullish TK recross with price above cloud down the line. Link also has a concept of an inverted head and shoulders. There's a lot of ERC20 type tokens that have this ascending triangle versus head and shoulders argument. Both could be bullish, but I don't think this will go anywhere until ETH makes up its mind. So if you're trading ERC20s, you are rooting for ETH to break up. Ape pulled back a bunch. I would never chase anything that's up 60% on a day. You missed it, right? Hopefully that's not a surprising take, but yeah, that one definitely needs to cool off. ICP I also saw was up randomly today. It looks okay, but again, it's got this like ascending triangle, inverted head and shoulders. I don't know, right? We're getting there. We're getting there on a lot of this stuff. As sad and depressing as this video might feel, we're getting there. We're getting there. The longer we can hold these lows, the easier all these trades become, because then we start to have the conversation. Okay, we're at resistance. It's break up above the 200-day, above the cloud time. You know, we'll get there. Just this stuff takes a very long time, and we're living through it week over week. Here on What Could Go Wrong, Wednesday, the original name for this series. AVAX is another one that I think actually looks decent. It's getting closer. It's getting there, right? It's getting there. It's getting there. It's trying to maybe think about doing something. And I don't even think this has anything to do with the off the grid stuff. It's just, it spent months going sideways. And yeah, a lot of everything is trying to pull up now. Apt has gone all over the $10 mark. That cross that is there to remind me that there's a, looks probably a bullish 5200 cross at this point. So it's above the cloud, it's above the 200, it's got a bullish 5200 cross. It's one of the few that looks great. It's just probably needs to chill out for a minute, but I like dip buys on Apt. Why not? You know, it looks better than almost everything. Dips would be like 850 or something like that. Closer to the 200, the better. Dot, how are you doing? Old Dottie at all-time lows there. And stuff like this will move, but it's not going to be a first mover. It's going to be a last mover. It's going to be a laggard. And it's not something you likely want to deal with until the broader market is bullish. There was a request for turbo. Very limited chart here. I got nothing to say, honestly. Give it some more months of data and then come back. But, you know, if you're bullish on stuff like that, who am I to judge? Who am I to judge? JEP also looking okay. I haven't looked at this chart in a while, but it makes sense. If Solana has strength, Solana ecosystem should have strength. You can see it's got the triple bottom vibes, just like Solana. It's above the 200, it's above the cloud. It's gone flat for months and months and months and months. So yeah, I don't hate it. And I think on Kraken here, you can even sort by ecosystem for people like me who don't know most of these newer coins. And it may be a good time to start browsing the Solana ecosystem if the Solana ecosystem is where the strength is at the moment. I have no idea what Zex is. Yeah, my guess is neither do most people. Looks like it just got listed a couple weeks ago. So broadly, alts just chopping around still. But the good news is we're getting closer. We're getting closer to something happening. It's good to see at least a leader doing anything. You know, it's not ETH, so it might not be your cup of tea, but something is starting to do well. And if this can continue for Sol, everything else is going to start to look better. It's going to get a bullish Kumo twist here in a couple days, or today. It's going to get a 5200 bull cross in a couple days. It's going to potentially reconsolidate above 180 in a week or two, and then we can zoom all the way out depending on if Kraken has the data, we can say, okay, is this whole thing a cup and handle just like everything else? And then we can start talking about all these crazy targets that people have. Why not, right? Who am I to say that this thing can't break? All right, I don't think it's going to go to 2,000, but I do think the next level would be a measured move of the range, which would be, we'll call it 300. That would make sense. Within the quarter, I think that's possible, if strength can remain on Sol. So that's all I have for this one. Like, dislike, comment, share, subscribe, and happy trading.